At the top of an ancient volcanic formation found in the land of Stirling sits a great castle, simply known as Stirling Castle. This is a place of some significance in Scottish history. It has long been thought that Stirling Castle was the key to the north, as it sits in the River Forth and is the meeting point between the highlands and the lowlands. For many centuries it was home to the royal house of Stewart, and from its walls some of the most important battles in Scottish history could be seen. But for many years the locals have known that magic could be found in its foundations. This is the tale of how Stirling Castle was built. Many years ago, there lived an old man, and this man had it in his mind that his purpose in life was to build a great castle on what was then named Stirling Rock. He chose a site at the very pinnacle of the rock and spent many nights drawing the plans for his great castle by the flickering candlelight. It wasn't until these plans were complete that the man finally understood the monumental task that now lay before him. He was not a wealthy man and too old to drag or quarry the stones himself. It was obvious now that his dream would not come to fruition during his lifetime, if at all. But still the man would not abandon hope. He wished only to see the great castle that he had pictured in his mind once before his death. This wish consumed the man's mind, and night and day he could be found in Stirling Rock, lamenting his inability to create this masterpiece. Then, on one moonlit evening, while the man ranted on the hilltop, he was approached by a small, stunted stranger. "What will you give me if I build your castle?" The old man was quite taken aback by the offer, but told the stranger of how he had nothing to his name. The stranger stood and thought a minute. Then his face seemed to brighten as he asked, "Will you go with me to the other side in 1 year's time, if I promise to build your castle before then?" "Cannot agree to that," said the old man. He had heard of such propositions in old tales, and did not wish to be trapped forever in the realm of the Fae. "Then," called the stranger, "let us make a new deal. If you can tell me my name before the year runs out, then you need not come with me, and the castle will be yours." The man agreed to these new terms. He thought that given a year's time, finding out the name of this stranger would not be a difficult feat. So for the first night in quite some time, the man left the rock and returned home to sleep. On the next morning, he returned to Stirling Rock and was overjoyed to see that the foundations of a great castle had already been laid. Night after night, the little man worked tirelessly, carving stone, chopping wood, and forging materials. But at the end of each month, he would disappear for a day or two, and nothing would be added to the building during that time. In spite of the stranger's short breaks, the castle slowly began to form upon the rock. When the year was drawing to its end, the great building was nearly complete. It was only then that the old man began to become very anxious indeed, for he had yet to discover the name of the strange worker. On an almost daily basis, the old man would try and guess the stranger's name, but to no avail. Eventually the man devised a plan to discover the name, but would require the assistance of a younger man. So he went to his neighbour and asked him to aid in the scheme. He told the young man that the builder was a Faerie, and informed him of the pair's agreement. He made mention that the stranger would take a break at the end of each month, and thought that if a man was to follow the creature, it may be possible to find where he goes and what name he goes by. The old man told of how he had tried this on a few occasions, but could not keep pace with the Fae, and so required a younger man with a healthy constitution to complete the task. The neighbour happily agreed and returned home to prepare. When the appropriate time arrived, the young man left his home and hid in the forest near the castle, waiting for the fairy to leave. It was not very late into the evening when the little man downed tools and headed off into the woods. The young man followed the fae for some time until the pair came to a clearing in the trees where there sat a large knoll. He watched as a wooden door appeared in the side of the knoll as if by magic, and as the little man walked inside the fairy knoll, a voice called out, "Is that you, Thomas, son of Jock?" "Aye, 'tis me," the answer returned. As soon as he heard the name, the young man began to dash back through the woods and returned to the old man, where he divulged the fairy's secret. The old man kept this secret to himself all the way up to the last day of the year. It was then that the little man came to him and said, "I've finished my work, castle is done, and now you must come with me to the other side." "I will not go with you yet," answered the old man. "The deal was made," called the fairy. "If you cannot tell me my name, you are bound to come with me." The old man nodded knowingly, and with just a hint of a smile, he said, "Are you not Thomas, son of Jock?" The fairy was stunned, but then his face took a red anger as he yelled, "If I am Thomas, son of Jock, 'tis I devised the wicked plot. Thou standeth River Mount in sight, and for thee not have I tonight." With these parting words, the little man morphed into a ball of red-hot flames and flew through the castle wall, leaving behind him a hole which neither stone nor wood could close. The old man finally took this moment to stand back and view his dream. The great castle of Stirling was built, and here it would stand forevermore. Yet still to this day, the hole in the castle wall can be seen, and it is yet to be filled by stone or timber. This is a wonderful tale, and certainly fills in some of the information lost to history. In truth, no one is entirely sure who built Stirling Castle. The first mention of it is from 1110, when King Alexander I dedicated a chapel there. But at that time, it was already an established castle and seat of royalty. Although the hole in the wall, which is still there, and thought by many to be the very one made by the fairy, actually dates to some time during the 16th century. It is said that the hole in the wall was made for the young Murry, Queen of Scots, so that she could look over the castle and the land that was now hers. But we cannot be sure if this is just a coincidence or the holes are one and the same. There are a few parts of this tale that bear much resemblance to the Germanic story of Rumpelstiltskin. Rumpelstiltskin was an imp who gave his magical services to a miller's daughter in exchange for her first child. But when the time came to give up the child, the woman refused. The imp then made a deal that if the woman could guess his name within 3 days, he would give up his claim to the child. After many failed guesses, the woman followed the imp into the woods, where she overhears him singing about his own name. On the next morning, the woman tells the imp that his name is Rumpelstiltskin, and angrily the imp storms out and is never seen again. I am sure you can see the similarities between this tale and the building of Stirling Castle, but we cannot definitively say which tale came first. Although the tale of Rumpelstiltskin was recorded in the Grimm's fairy tales almost 100 years before, the building of Stirling Castle was recorded by James MacDougall. Both were well-known tales, passed down through oral tradition long before they were recorded and printed. So there you have it, the tale of how Stirling Castle came to be, and why many think it will never fall. Thank you for listening.